Welcome back. We're still focusing on internal party democracy. That's the question we're hoping we'll get answers. And we have joining us now a member of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Tunde Bank-Anthony. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. Thank you.
Professor Tubanjo talked about the fact that we are on course for a fantastic election in 2015. What's your take?
Well, I believe we're on course. I just hope INEC will be very, very transparent, right, and more credible. Because Prof said INEC is independent. I wonder how independent they are. It's an appointment of Mr. President, and that's very clear to everybody. When we can have an elective INEC in place, then we can be sure INEC is independent. But for now, in our own mind, it's not clear to us how credible INEC can be.
Well, an elective INEC might still be some time away from us, but we do know that when Professor Jega was appointed, there were commendations coming in terms of the person that had been chosen to man the electoral body. And I think that even then, was in the opposition, I don't remember very clearly, but I think that the opposition party also commended the choice of that candidate.
Whenever there's an appointment of that level, there will be commendation regarding that office. But we have seen over the years, over time, that particular office, what has happened at the end of the day. We've witnessed in the history of this country, one of the fairest elections, that office could not announce. That was the Abiola's election. We knew how it was started.
That's a very long way away.
Excuse me, that is part of the issue. Very long way away, but we are still in that predicament now. That is the truth.
In any recent elections, has that happened?
With regards to what?
With the electoral process. I mean, you say that that's a long way away, but we're talking about our recent history.
I mean, how far away is 1992 in our recent history? How far away could you say that could be? Tell me.
It's not as recent as 2011.
I agree with you.
It's not as recent as this year.
Don't let's give Jega the kind of credibility that we have not seen. We are going to an election year now, and we hope it will deliver the Nigerian verdict.
Before we get to the elections,
yes,
there are processes.
That's right.
That will lead up to that election, and some of them involve the parties and the things they are doing within themselves. Last week we had the presidential primaries of the two major parties.
Yes.
Now, but we played a report earlier before Professor Tubanjo spoke that told a story of anger in Owerri, a story of anger in Kogi, and that cuts across several states where primaries have held in the weeks gone by. What's your take on internal democracy within your party?
I saw your program, probably the clips from Owerri and Kogi, and you know something is that like I said, right, we are still just trying to get there. We have a lot of political imbalance at the grassroots level. There are so many factions there at the grassroots level. Like you said, you could see what happened in Lagos. There are primaries for the governorship of Lagos and for the presidency of the party. Within the local context of the party, people have a lot of political differences that channels will not be able to go there and cover it. Because when people are being televised live on the telly, you see a different scenario entirely. But whereby we don't go in there to go and check what is happening. The party is guilty of that. I'm sorry again, so is INEC, because most of this election, INEC has to be present there.
But INEC does not conduct that election for the party.
They are there as observers.
That's right, but when we have three primaries for one particular election, and we have INEC officers in those places, then something is wrong. You are giving credibility to those elections.
Is that what happened in your party?
No, not in our party. I can't recall that, but I remember a place, was in Owerri. The PDP had about 3 places primaries going on. And they had INEC officers in all those places going on at the same time. I'm not doing anti-PDP. I'm just trying to show you a scenario whereby INEC, by being there, are giving credibility to those elections. Right? And INEC will be invited by the party to a location to be an observer of that primaries.
Since you mentioned the way the report, the clips we showed pictures of youth, were protesting with a coffin, that the elections conducted in the APC or Olu constituency, that they were not acceptable because they're not properly conducted, materials were stolen, and parallel primaries were going on. So how would you rate?
Well, I'm not sure about the parallel primaries. You see, there will always be grievances in an election. We have one central election seat in Olu. There could be about 5 or 6 people going for this seat. For crying out loud, right? Only one person will emerge. We have an appeal process in place where you could appeal to, but you see, we are very emotional about this game. That's the bottom line. Our supporters, they cry more than the bereaved. That is the truth.
It is interesting that, in your case, or within the party, or within your political party, it is acceptable for the supporters to cry more than the bereaved. But what if INEC were to be the one saying what it is that you're saying? For instance, INEC says, we did our best. The political parties are just screaming blue murder where there's been none.
How can you be in 3 different places at the same time?
That is
just come up with, let's be realistic.
That is one instance, and in that case, perhaps we wait for INEC to.
I'm telling you, check most of these cases out. They will tell you INEC officer was there. That's what always baffled me. INEC officer was there. They were here, they were there. So how come that happens all the time?
When within a political party they have the crisis of authentication, where eventually you might find that the 3 parties you're talking about might eventually find their way to court and resolve their matters there, and maybe the court will have to accept one of them or validate one of the groups as being. Would you want a situation whereby they will be asked to reconduct primaries, or because only and simply because INEC was not at that particular one? So maybe within itself as well, INEC is also it's trying to ensure that whatever party is taken, at least we witness the elections. In some cases, INEC has been very categorical, that if the certain guidelines weren't followed, they were not going to be there. For instance, in Kogi West, which is one of the reports that we played, they have said they're not going to accept the results of the elections, of the primaries in that particular instance. What do you have to say? And that has to do with your party.
Well, if INEC faulted that election, and I've seen complaint about the election, but what I've seen on the telly has been one-sided. They've been accusing Dino Melaye of being the group leader of these people who are probably not letting the thing take place. I would like your people to go there and speak to Dino Melaye as well. That is the fact, because you cannot base our judgment on a one-sided story.